I read tarot for myself and others, and I decided to do a little vlog of the readings I did in a week. This represents just 1 week. It's not every week, because though I do have some readings I do each week, I try not to read out of any sense of obligation. I read when I can read, when I need to read, and when it would be beneficial to me to read. I started this vlog with a nighttime routine. This was Sunday night, and I chose something from my nighttime routine card. This is from my card of the year practice. I use my tarot card of the year as a guide or a compass to help me make intentional change in my life. And part of that routine is setting up daily draw and nighttime questions so I can stay connected to my card of the year and to the lessons and goals for the month. I don't do my nighttime routine every night. I truly want to. It's very calming. It helps me get a good night's sleep. It helps me kind of release from the day. But the honest truth is that quite often I do not do my nighttime routine. And I don't always pull a card as part of my nighttime routine. So I did my nighttime routine a lot more this week than you'll see in this video because I often don't pull a card. I use it as just a reflection point. And I don't always need tarot for that. In this reading, I was reflecting on the ways I was creative that day. Creativity is extremely important to me. I feel like my creative self is my most powerful self. And to think about that, reflect on that, connect with my cards, connect with myself at the end of the night is just really a beautiful experience for me. And I try to do it as often as I can. Monday morning is always my inner artist reading. I ask the same question each week, and I use it to guide my creativity. The question is, what does my inner artist need this week? I start by reflecting on last week's reading and how it showed up throughout the week, and then I do a new reading. When I was in a creative slump, I did this reading every day, but then I have to be honest, it just got to be too much. I couldn't take that advice every single day. So now I do it every week. And sometimes if I haven't had a chance to enact that week's advice, or if I still just need a little more time with it, or if it was incredibly powerful for me and I want more time with it, then I do carry it over into the next week instead of doing a brand new one. Like I said before, I try not to be obligated to these readings. They are here to help me live a better life, but I don't feel that I have to do them. I really think it's important we stay flexible in our practice so that it can be as powerful as is possible. So this was a new week for me, and I did do a new inner artist reading, and then I used that advice throughout the week. I put it on a post-it in my sacred space so I can see it. I put it on my weekly calendar so I can see it each day when I'm on my computer. And I try to hold those lessons with me and work on them throughout the week. This is truly one of my most powerful and favorite readings I do. I generally don't miss it. I also did a reading at work this day. This was not a daily draw. I have to be honest, usually on Mondays, because I've just done an inner artist reading, I often don't do a daily draw on Mondays, but I just suddenly started feeling anxious at work. And so I felt like I could pull a card and try to help with that, figure out what the root of the anxiety was so that I didn't spend the rest of the day feeling that way. Usually these impromptu readings, and very often my daily draw, I don't journal on them. I am a big journaler. I really like taking the time to dig into my thoughts when I'm pulling cards. But for these impromptu readings, I don't usually take the time to journal. I honestly cannot remember even what the card was. I caught a glimpse of it there, but I think it was giving me some advice to try to get into my body. So I pulled out my beads and I did a little meditation, which was super duper helpful. I also set up monthly affirmations or words of power for myself as part of my card of the year practice. And so I usually use those with my beads. So I just took a little bit of time to get my body regulated, and I felt much better after a card pull and some little bit of meditation with my beads. On Tuesday, I did do a daily draw. I got to my desk with enough time to pull some cards before I was supposed to get started on my work, and so I went for it. I used my pre-created daily draw questions, connecting me back to my monthly reading and my card of the year. And you'll see here that I did want to journal on this one. It really depends on what comes up from that card. I don't usually set out and decide before I pull the card, like, I'm going to journal on this one. It's generally that I'm not going to journal, but sometimes when I pull that card, just brings up some things that could use a little bit more thought, or perhaps they're connecting back to other readings, and so I want to mark it down so that my journal contains all those connections. This isn't a reading, but I did want to show you that sometimes I pull out my tarot decks to play solitaire. I'll play when I'm on break. It's a great way to get my eyes off of a screen. It's a great way to just sort of calm my brain, calm my body, focus a little bit. And sometimes I do play solitaire when I'm in a webinar because it helps me to focus on what I'm hearing. I'm quite fidgety, a little bit hyper sometimes. It's hard for me to sit still. So playing solitaire when I'm just listening is really helpful for me to focus on what I'm hearing. You'll also see right underneath my monitor at the right there that I've posted my daily draw card for myself. I do this quite a lot. I just set it out on that little stand so I can see it during the day. It reminds me of the lesson. It reminds me of what I'm going for with that daily draw. And then I just, shuffle it back into my deck at the end of the day and put it back on my desk. On Wednesday, I had a client reading. This was a video reading, so I got myself set up and I did that reading. I also offer live readings on Zoom or Google Meet. I also offer PDF readings, but this was a video reading, so I thought I'd throw just a little bit of that footage in here. Not much, and I'm not really going to talk about the reading for client confidentiality, but I adore reading for people. This was another day where I try to do the readings in the morning because the house is the quietest in the morning and my mind is fresh and I feel that I'm my most kind of creative, intuitive self in the morning. So on this day, I also did not do a daily draw since I had just put out all this energy into this reading. So this was all I did on that day. This is Thursday morning and I did a daily draw on this day, and this one I chose, how can I move deliberately? I'm really working on alignment this year. My theme of the year is align, and so I'm trying to make choices in my life that are aligned with my core values, my authentic self, my higher self, with my goals. My card of the year is the Tower, and so each month I choose a tower to tear down, and this month's tower is my tower to charioteering, which I am sort of taking to mean my need to constantly work, to constantly be moving. And that puts me doing a lot of work that is out of alignment with what I really could be doing. And it puts me into sort of a frazzled state. So the daily draw to help me move deliberately is really helpful at the start of the day. And then I pair that with a nighttime routine, like a bookend, where I look back on my day to see how I moved deliberately during the day. And I love this style of daily draw and nighttime routine where they're bookending the day so you can be more focused on kind of a singular thing. In this case, because I was just reflecting on how the day had gone, I did not pull a card on that question, but I still felt like I wanted to pull a card. And so I pulled out a zine that I made. This is my nightly draw zine. I made this because I was having a lot of trouble coming up with good questions for nighttime. And I do have this in my shop if you're interested in downloading it and printing it for yourself. I love these mini zines full of questions and spreads. Sometimes at the end of the night, I just feel like I want to pull a card, but I just don't know what to ask about. And these little mini zines come in clutch in that moment. So I picked a question off of here and pulled some cards and finished up my day. I reserve Friday mornings for my self-love ritual and reading. Similar to my inner artist reading, I do this each week. I do it on Fridays. I've been doing it for years. The first thing I do is swap out the cards I keep on the altar or shrine, technically. I swap them out. I have the High Priestess and the Empress. I like to put a new card from a different deck there each week because I feel like it gives it a little energy. I like to see the new art, the new representation of those archetypes. So similar to the inner artist reading I do on Mondays, I reflect on the past week. I pull my lesson down that I keep on my Post-it. I reflect on it, how it went, think about if I want to extend that to the next week, if I start new. Very often my self-love reading comes from either reflecting on last week and diving deeper into that, or it'll come from my monthly reading and whether I can read that in a self-loving way, or it just comes from the self-love spell I do for myself, the affirmations or the boundaries. I also have a little self-love zine. Sometimes I take questions or readings off of that. So pretty free-flowing how I want to handle it. I don't have the same question over and over, which is what I do with my inner artist reading. The self-love reading really is just whatever comes up that morning, I do a reading on that. This ritual and reading have gotten me through some really tough times. They've really helped me to deal with my people pleasing. They've gotten me through a lot of grief. They've gotten me to a place where I can be a lot more confident, outspoken, more loving towards myself, more loving towards others, more loving towards my community, more active in my community. I believe strongly that all the self-love, self-growth, self-empowerment, self-awareness, all of that cannot end itself. It's got to be moved out into our communities so that it can improve the world. We're not here just to improve ourselves. We're here to improve the living situation for everyone in our realm and even people we don't know. And self-love is a way to start with that. And I did not do a daily draw at my work desk this day, and I also did not draw cards for a nighttime routine. Now, this was because I had a massive migraine that just knocked me out on this day. But typically on a Friday, I wouldn't do a nighttime routine. My family usually does movie night, and so I don't really feel that I have the time to do my nighttime routine on Fridays. Usually it's Sundays through Thursdays that I can sneak in my nighttime routine. Friday and Saturday are often more social, and so I often don't spend the time on it on those days. And now we're at the end of the week. We've reached Saturday. This has been a full week's worth of readings, and Saturday mornings I reserve for a deep dive reading. This is also connected back to my card of the year. So my card of the year, I calculate that, and then I pick a theme of the year, and I create a spread that I'm going to do each month on the first of the month. When I do that spread, when I do that reading, I also develop my daily draw, my nighttime routine questions, my affirmations that I use with my beads or, just reading them. I do not prepare a deep dive reading, but I like to return to that monthly reading once a week. I picked Saturdays because it's usually the only day of the week I don't have something going on in the morning. So I have a lot of flexibility when I get it started, how long it's going to take. The reading often comes from either returning to my monthly lessons or affirmations and wanting to go deeper into those, or sometimes it'll come from other readings I did that week. This is another one where I don't ask the same question each time. I'm just using it to go deeper into something I'm already working on. I use it to get more lessons about that, maybe to make an action plan for the week. But there's no set reading, there's no set spread. In this one, I decided to take some questions that had been kind of waiting for me. I'd been wanting to think about them. I'd been wanting to journal on them. They were questions about kind of identifying who I am and how I'm moving within the business I'm trying to run. I had tried to just journal on them and I was just stuck. And so I decided to pull some cards to answer those questions. Usually I only read with one tarot card, but I had a second one winking at me and I've learned to trust the decks. And so I pulled 4 cards, one for each question from both of the decks, and then used how they were interacting with one another to come up with my answers. As usual, I am very glad I listened to my decks and I had a wonderful reading to start the weekend to really think about how I could be more in alignment, to know myself more, and to function a little bit better in the world. So that is a week of readings. As a secular psychological reader, I approach tarot with this psychological therapeutic approach, and this is how I've set things up for myself to have a really deep, reflective, and joyous reading life. So if you've watched my experience with these readings and it's making you feel like somehow you need to change your own practice, but that feeling isn't an inspired feeling, it's a FOMO or guilt or I don't know, jealousy. If this is creating a negative feeling about your own practice, I hope you can shed that and just let this be, something interesting to see, a window into how somebody else reads, but that you don't take it as a prescription on how you should be reading. There are so many ways to approach tarot. Tarot is a beautiful thing, and your practice should work for you. Like if you liked the video, subscribe for more tarot content, and thanks so much for stopping by.